I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. The telephone number, 870-275-9799, if you would like to contribute to the program today. We've got a great show for you. A couple things. First off, at the bottom of this hour, we're going to introduce you to a man by the name of David Rubin. David Rubin is the author of the book entitled Trump and the Jews. We'll be talking to him. He's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. The former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, will be on the program coming up at 6:33 this morning. Then an hour from then, we'll be discussing what I believe is a deception that is perpetuated against the Arkansas voter and has been for a very long time. They're called special elections. And, I've got the numbers right here. It's very, very clear. When you have a vote for a tax increase during a special election, the deck is stacked against those that want lower taxes, that want to keep the tax rate where it currently is. For example, if you are in a general election, the voter turnout since 1981 is at 44%. In a general election, that's pretty good. Your pass rate is 46%. So 46% of the time, you hold a tax increase in your local community during a special election, it's going to pass less than 50% of the time because people don't like higher taxes. If you hold that same special election, according to the numbers, the research done by the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, we're going to be talking with Dr. Jeremy Horpendahl coming up at 7:30 this morning. If you try to pass that tax in a primary, the voter turnout's going to be 24%. So it was 44 in the general, 24% average, and your pass rate goes up to 61% if you hold it in a primary. But no, that's not good enough for some of these cities. They can't even hold it in a primary when voter turnout is lower. If you hold it in a special election, your voter turnout on average since 1981 will be 19%, and your pass rate will be 76% of the time you'll get your tax increase. Now, I think that's deceptive. I think it's wrong. We'll be talking, again, with the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, Dr. Jeremy Horpendahl, coming up at 7:33. All right, let's get right to it. Boy, if you thought, let me tell you, the admissions that are coming from even the Dems, did anyone see Jake Tapper's tweets? Jake Tapper's tweets claim that he talked to a few anonymous Democrats in Congress that said Trump won this round, that it is very clear that Pelosi was trying to marginalize the squad, and Trump got involved, and now the whole Democrat Party is embracing the squad. These anonymous Democrats, according to CNN's Jake Tapper, are furious because they are forced to support the squad, but the squad doesn't support the Democrat Party. They don't like their anti-Semitic comments. You should hear this, or you should go read this. Matter of fact, we'll read it here in a minute. Did you see where the president put out a video that at the end it was a very pro-America, very pro-patriotic video, and at the end of the video it said, "One squad under God." Pretty powerful stuff. But it's not over because the liberal media and those on the left and Twitter, they're in a meltdown. They're in a meltdown because last night at the first Keep America Great Again rally, President Donald Trump was talking about Ilhan Omar and was saying things referencing her anti-Semitic statements, referencing the way she feels about Al-Qaeda. And the crowd erupted in chants of, "Send her back, send her back, send her back." Let's take a listen here. This is from RealClearPolitics.com. This is what President Trump said about Ilhan Omar. And then listen to the crowd. And what the crowd says has we'll give you the social media backlash here in just a moment.
Far left that Americans speak of Al-Qaeda in a menacing tone and remark that you don't say America with this intensity. You say Al-Qaeda makes you proud. Al-Qaeda makes you proud. Don't speak that way about America. And at a press conference just this week, when asked whether she supported Al-Qaeda, that's our enemy. That's our enemy. They are a very serious problem that we take care of, but they always seem to come along somewhere. She refused to answer. She didn't want to give an answer to that question. Omar blamed the United States for the crisis in Venezuela. I mean, think of that one. And she looks down with contempt on the hard-working Americans, saying that ignorance is pervasive in many parts of this country. And obviously and importantly, Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds. And she talked about the evil Israel, and it's all about the Benjamins. Not a good thing to say. So that's Omar. That's Omar.
All right,
and
so
by the way, many
the
other
left's
things.
freaking out about it. I mean, you go.
They're
now calling this plan. This is part of Trump's ugly plan to get himself reelected. This is his ugly plan. People calling it a white mob, sending chants of "send her back" when it comes to Ilhan Omar. I think it kind of shows that the American people don't like anti-Semitic comments. I mean, that's the story here you're not going to hear. Trump brings up anti-Semitic comments made by Ilhan Omar, and they chant "send her back." Trump brings up her, I don't know, her feelings about Al-Qaeda, which really, if you go look at that video as we did on Tuesday or Wednesday, Ilhan Omar's statements on Al-Qaeda are actually much worse than the way they're described. It's her critiquing what she thinks is the psychological conditioning of American students when professors reference the United States versus people referencing Al-Qaeda, and how the way they say the word Al-Qaeda is psychologically manipulative to make people think that Al-Qaeda is a threat. That's what she was saying. It's not a good thing. But everyone's freaked out. Send her back. Send her back. Send her back. We'll just keep going with some of the stories that we have here. So shortly after that erupted, we have this guy on Twitter who posted. His name is David Steinberg. He's been following and reporting on Ilhan Omar for a very long time. He said this: big Ilhan Omar update. Today, real Donald Trump mentioned Ilhan's past. He did. He mentioned that she might have been married to her brother. Of course, the left, the mainstream media says, "Oh, that's impossible. That's not true. Wasn't married to." That's a right-wing conspiracy theory, is what they said. But now that the president's brought it up, this guy's saying presumably the mainstream media must now finally cover this. So I'll be publishing a new smoking gun evidence this week. So I started researching this for myself. So this guy knows a lot about, or at least he's reporting on Ilhan Omar. Next tweet. All right, it's time for an important Ilhan thread. Despite the laudable bipartisan condemnation of her Jew hatred, I don't think the country is aware of and sufficiently angry about what certain people did to usher Ilhan Omar into Congress the past 3 years. Scrolling down, worse, it's clear that these folks are going to keep making the same amoral calculations about Ilhan Omar, despite her character now being clear for all to see. For 3 years, Minnesota Democrats, Minnesota media, and yes, a politicized Minnesota DOJ office have weighed the false, if politically heaven-sent, image of Ilhan Omar against the truth of her bad-as-it-gets individual character. In cowardice, they chose the lie. And they are not going to stop now. It's not just about anti-Semitism. Everyone, please read all the articles linked below in one sitting, and please keep one question in mind. Can I think of a rational, innocent explanation for all this evidence? Then consider that the Minnesota Democrats, the media, the DOJ ignored it all and are continuing to do so. I will answer any questions you have. All right, so I decided to click on all these articles, and we got them pulled up one by one. First headline from these are all from PJ Media. Headline: Ilhan Omar endorsed Somalia's new president. 4 days later, Omar's brother-in-law had a powerful job in his administration. Next headline: 105 articles cover Ilhan Omar's win to Congress. 0 cover her anti-Semitism, finance investigations, or perjury evidence. Next, new photos corroborate perjury claims against Representative Ilhan Omar as she deletes social media evidence. So she went through her social media and scrubbed a lot of stuff had to do with her brother. Address records show Representative Ilhan Omar still lived with her first husband throughout marriage to her apparent brother. Okay. Again, the media's going to say that's a far right-wing conspiracy theory. The implications are that she married her brother. There's actually divorce. There's a divorce court record where they got divorced. But apparently, they applied for FAFSA, the financial aid to go to South Dakota State University. If you read these articles, we're not going to go through them all because they're extensive. But I just wanted you to know that there are people who have looked extensively into this, and the media doesn't want to actually report it. Headline: Official school records support claims that Representative Ilhan Omar married her brother. You see that one? Next article: Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat Minnesota, perjury evidence blacked out by Minnesota media. And the last article he links to, again, these are all his. State Rep Ilhan Omar swore to apparent falsehoods in court while divorcing her alleged brother. Okay, so then now we have perjury implications, FAFSA violations, which that's actually the federal. That's federal crime there. $250,000 fine, up to 5 years in jail for lying on a student loan application. And why do the whole marriage thing? Some of that's tangled into they say immigration or whatever. My point is, how interesting would it be if all of this focus by President Trump on the squad, but specifically Ilhan Omar, what if it actually does lead to legal problems for her? Criminal investigations, actual criminal investigations for her. Then all of a sudden, things look a lot different, don't they? Now, the media will, of course, say this is a third world banana republic and Trump's going after his enemies. But if you broke the law, you broke the law. I think we're going to see a lot more of that, by the way. A lot more of that. I mean, what do you think they're going to say when James Comey is perp-walked? What do you think they're going to say when Andrew McCabe is perp-walked? Or John Brennan, or a Clapper, James Clapper. When these guys in the Obama administration, when the FISA D-class actually happens, when we find out what many of us already know, what do you think the media is going to say? Why do you think Comey and McCabe and all these people went on these tours across the mainstream media, CBS? Why do you think Andrew McCabe broke the law and then wrote a book about it? Because he's trying to whitewash it so that when he is arrested or if he is charged, they can say, oh my gosh, these were reasonable people. They came on the talk shows, and now Trump's going after them because it's a banana republic and he's a third world dictator. What would they say if Hillary Clinton was perp-walked? Bill Clinton. I can't say that. Plus, Joe, really, I'm not going to say that. Okay. Yes, I know. It's I like the reference. That's a really good reference. Ugh, but my eyes are burning. 870-275-9799. If you want to call or text, let us know. We're going to take a break here. We're going to reset. We're going to get to what social media is saying about the send her back chance. I want to know what you think. Was it too far? Do we wish the audience hadn't spontaneously started chanting send her back? Maybe Americans don't like people in this country who have feelings that are positive for Al-Qaeda, and they don't like socialism as well. They don't like anti-Semitism, right? I mean, would it be a bad thing? I'm just saying this. If the headlines were crowd chant send her back in response to, anti-Semitic comments. I mean, if this were reversed and it was a Democrat rally, that would be the headline. The Democrats hate anti-Semitism. But you're not going to see a Republican rally. They don't like people who are anti-Semites. It's just something to think about. We're going to take a break. Let me know what you think. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. Saw a friend of mine for years. I'm serious. A friend of mine I have friends. I'm serious. A friend of mine for years has been telling me that he thinks the Weather Channel, for example, has a financial incentive to make every storm like the worst ever so that people open up their free Weather Channel app on their phones. And every time that happens, there's a little ad that's going to populate at the bottom or top of your screen. Well, they're getting fractions of cents on that. And so, how many of you last week when the tropical storm or Hurricane Barry or whatever it ended up being, was coming, did you look at the weather at all? Look at the storm. I did. I actually don't, I have the Weather Channel app, but I actually use this service called Windy,
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Social media outrage erupts as Trump, Social media outrage erupts as Trump rally chants, "Send her back," at Ilhan Omar. Joel Pollack with the story. Here's a few reactions. Here's Jon Favreau. Who's Jon Favreau? Is he the guy that directed those Iron Man movies? That's Jon Favreau. Man, I'm telling you. I will just say this. He directed Iron Man 2, right? Did he direct? He did not do 3. He didn't do 3. He directed 1 and 2. 2 is so underrated, Ben. He plays Happy in all of them. Yeah. He's so underrated. Anyway. But, of course, he's from the left. He's from Hollywood. The crowd at Trump's rally chanting, "Send her back," after the president viciously and dishonestly attacked Ilhan Omar is one of the most chilling and horrifying things I've ever seen in politics. Stick to directing Iron Man movies, John. Stick to playing Happy. Much more likable. Trump and his crowd are perfectly aware that "send her back" is not describing voluntary immigration. That's New York Magazine. What does that even mean? Scroll down. What does that even mean? Get to the next tweet. Joe, get to the next tweet. Then we have this other one. Crowd at North Carolina Klan rally responds to Grand Wizard Donald Trump's attack. Who is Keith Boykin? Okay, so here we go. Crowd, and the thing is, there's no mention of Ilhan being an anti-Semite. All those Klan members that can't stand people of different skin but love Jews.
He's part of CNN's contributor ring.
Okay, so he's from CNN, this Keith Boykin. Kristen Gillibrand, presidential candidate that used to be at least campaigned originally as a moderate from New York, but now has to be on the far left. Whether it's "send her back." Oh, by the way, there's some rumors about Kristen Gillibrand's father that are very disturbing, that have to do with that Nixon sex cult. Look into that. Whether it's "send her back" or "lock her up," there has to be some form of punishment, or grab her by the the through line is contempt for women and anyone who threatens this president's fragile ego. He should be afraid. We are his worst nightmare, and we will beat him. Okay. Statements like that are just going to increase the amount of time these people are going to have to be in therapy. Now, there were also some conservatives that criticized this. Anyone who follows me knows I cover the far left, and that includes Representative Ilhan Omar. And I'm aggressive in reporting, which comes from a conservative angle. With that said, chanting "send her back" at Omar's not good. Keep in mind, I am one of her harshest critics. That's Ryan Saavedra over at the Daily Wire.
And I agree with him. I think the chant was wrong.
Send her back. Yeah. Okay. Send her back is an appalling chant. Omar is a U.S. citizen.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, and that's why a lot of people have a problem with this, because But the idea of here's the issue, is I think millions of Americans certainly have a problem, and the whole point of President Trump doing this entire week has been that these people are endlessly criticizing the country that we live in, and they are hypocrites, especially Ilhan Omar. When she has these anti-Semitic statements and she wants to lecture the country on equality, when she does have the comments that she made about Al-Qaeda, talking about this esoteric way that people in America are conditioned by their professors to think Al-Qaeda is the enemy, when Al-Qaeda is one of our enemies. I think millions of Americans are sick and tired of that. Send her back. You know what? I'm at least, the crowd chanted it. I'm happy with the honesty, quite frankly.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. INDY, especially for hurricanes, because you can get the app or you can go to the website. It's really interesting stuff to see that. But anyway, the bottom line is this. So inevitably, when the left does, when there's a big weather event, the left can't help themselves. They always want to say that every weather event there is has something to do with climate change or global warming. I'll give you an example. Back when there were these terrible tornadoes several years ago that ripped through the state of Arkansas,
bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, here we go, folks. Welcome back to the program. On this "Send Her Back" chant with Ilhan Omar, and everyone again on social media is freaking out. Listen, I think Greg Gutfeld has actually the best take on this. He said, "Pure mob insanity?" ? Apparently, you've never been to a sporting event. So that's a good point. I mean, we like to take our politics so seriously, but from a sporting event angle, a lot of people say things that they mean, but they maybe phrase them a way you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It is fascinating. And listen, I know everyone feels the need to point out that we shouldn't do that because she's like, for example, Guy Benson, "Send her back" is an appalling chant. Omar's a U.S. citizen. My less catchy chant would be condemn her bigotry, combat her radicalism, and investigate her seriously alleged fraud. Yeah, definitely. We were just going over all of that. But at the same time, somebody on my Facebook wrote, is it possible that she could be sent back? If they, actually look at the evidence and criminal charges are brought up, I'm not really sure. Folks, I'd like to actually talk about, kind of expand on this, the anti-Semitic comments from the left. I want to welcome to the program, we have Mr. David Rubin is with us. David is the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's on the phone this morning. David, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. Good to be with you.
David, you are also the author of the book Trump and the Jews. What's that book about, sir?
Well, the book Trump and the Jews is about exactly what it says, Trump and the Jews, the relationship between Trump and the Jewish people, Israel, the charges of anti-Semitism incredibly against him, along with an examination of who the real anti-Semites are.
So what was the motivation? That was the motivation then to expose who are the real anti-Semites, and who are they in your opinion?
Well, look, we always knew that there were some neo-Nazis and anti-Semites on the far right, but they're actually very few in numbers, whereas the anti-Semitism in the far left is growing in leaps and bounds, and there are quite a number of members of Congress who definitely would fit the definition of an anti-Semite. And it's very troubling. It's not just those 4 congresswomen. It's also those on the far left, quite a few members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And, this is all very troubling, but it's the reality. And President Trump, it's kind of fascinating about the criticism of President Trump by some of the more liberal Jews, who many of whom have called him anti-Semitic, which is absolutely absurd because he actually has stronger connections in many ways with the Jewish people than some of these liberal Jews do.
And I hear he's really popular in Israel. Is that true?
He is wildly popular. And it goes across the political spectrum, too. It's not just those on the right, and it's not just those at the center. And it also includes a lot of Israelis on the left. And the reason for that is very simple. He has done more than any president in American history to strengthen the relationship between Israel and the United States. It's that simple.
Meanwhile, I saw this. Again, we're talking with David Rubin. He's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's the author of a book, Trump and the Jews. You need to check it out. I'm going to talk about his organization here in just a minute. But meanwhile, this is the Twitter war that's been going on between Donald Trump and really the Democrats all week. He's also calling out the entire party because now the party seems to be embracing their far-left anti-Semitic fringe, which is also, socialist. Then you got Joe Biden. You got Pete Buttigieg, as Trump called him last night, criticizing Israeli, quote, occupation. What do you think about that, David?
Yes, in a minute, Pete Buttigieg will be accusing us of homophobia if I criticize him. Look, there are people there on the far left of the Democratic Party, and unfortunately they're becoming the core of the Democratic Party because everyone else is afraid of them because they're so aggressive. But instead of looking at the content of what President Trump says or what President Trump does, they just call names, call everyone a racist, and they'll invent new diseases like Islamophobia and homophobia, and soon there'll be a new disease called people of color phobia. It's just ridiculous. It makes absolutely no sense. And President Trump has just been doing a great job, and he's, I look at things in his foreign policy where he's been consistent, where he's strengthened ties with true allies of the United States. He has forged new alliances such as Israel and Saudi Arabia and a couple of other Arab countries that heretofore did not have a great relationship with Israel. And it's an alliance against the threat from Iran. So he's just done a lot of very great things in foreign policy. And that's not even to get into the tremendous job he's done with the American economy. But these Democrats, they have no substance to what they're saying. And the ones that are more moderate, like perhaps Joe Biden, they're running scared. They're afraid of their own shadows.
I'm glad that you brought up the alliance with Saudi Arabia and Israel, because that's certainly something that the mainstream media will never, ever talk about or, give the president any credit for that at all. And mainly because maybe they don't want to acknowledge what a threat Iran actually is and how the last administration, we're cutting these deals that make absolutely no sense. Again, we're talking with David Rubin, the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's the author of the book Trump and the Jews. Now, Reuben, or David, you're also the founder and president of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. Now, this was established after you and your then 3-year-old son were wounded in a terror attack. Tell us about that, sir.
Well, we were wounded when we were coming back from Jerusalem. I was driving my car. My son was sitting behind me in the baby seat. As you said, he was 3 years old. And halfway home, the car is suddenly ambushed by Islamic terrorists from the Palestinian Authority. They were on the side of the road with AK-47 assault rifles shooting at my car. And the car went completely dead when the bullets hit. I got shot in the leg. My son, we later found out, had gotten shot in the head. And the bullet that went through into his head and through his neck missed his brainstem by 1 millimeter. But there was a long recovery period after that, and thank God we were able to finally get the car moving and got away from the terrorists. But after our 2 years or so of recovery and post-trauma psychological counseling for my son, I realized that something had to be done with this, because nothing like that happens for no good reason. There has to be a good thing that comes out of everything. And I had a vision of a therapeutic educational campus for children that have suffered from terrorism. And that's what has come to fruition. That's the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. And we have over 2,000 children on one campus, and they have formal therapy, there is informal therapy, there are all kinds of educational programs, and we are truly restoring some of the lost innocence of childhood for these victims of the Islamic terrorism.
So, given that context, and by the way, thank you for making something positive, what was meant for evil being now used for good. Thank you for that. But giving that context of that trauma and that tragedy, bringing it back to what the Democrats are being forced to embrace right now, which are anti-Semitic comments, which, when it comes to the case of Ilhan Omar, are rooted in a Muslim Islamic worldview, and it's the same worldview. If we're honest, the same worldview that those people with AK-47s had on the road that day when they shot at you, sir. So, I mean, this isn't just politics. This is real, isn't it?
Yes, it's very real, and it's if it was only me and my son, then we could say perhaps it's a fluke. But there are thousands of Israeli civilians that have been killed or wounded in terrorist attacks in recent years, and the same terrorists, the terrorists that tried to kill us and that killed and wounded so many others, they're from the same ideology as those terrorists who killed and wounded all the others, and they're the same ideology as terrorists that attacked the Twin Towers in 9/11. So, this is so when you have somebody coming into Congress, two individuals who adhere to that same ideology and don't hesitate to preach it, that's something that's very frightening. But it's more disturbing when the leadership of the Democratic Party doesn't have the guts to stand up, doesn't have the courage to stand up and denounce it unequivocally in a State of the Congress resolution. when they tried to pass that resolution, they didn't have the courage to stand up with it, and they didn't have the courage to stand against the criticism of the far left that was saying, no, you can't condemn anti-Semitism unless you also condemn all these other so-called bigotries and these other so-called diseases, psychological diseases. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're being accused of those things, it's hard to respond.
You're exactly right. We're talking again with David Rubin, the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, author of the book Trump and the Jews. You should check it out. Also check out his fund, his Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. David, I got one more question for you, and feel free to, I think it's true because, I've seen photos of it on the internet, but I just don't know how popular it actually is. So somebody showed me a coin that is being made or manufactured in Israel, from what the reports that I read, that has Donald Trump's face on it, along with King Cyrus's face on it. And are you familiar with that at all?
Certainly.
What's the meaning? What's the meaning behind that, and why are the Israeli people comparing Trump to Cyrus?
Well, I actually made that comparison in my book, Trump and the Jews. For those people who don't know that much Bible, in Jewish history there was a character named King Cyrus of Persia, and he was a Persian king. He wasn't Jewish, but I consider him to be an important part of Jewish history because after the first temple was destroyed in Jerusalem about 2,500 years ago, he almost single-handedly financed the rebuilding of that holy temple in Jerusalem. He stood with the Jewish people in their time of need. And President Trump, we could say the same thing about him, especially after those 8 horrible years of Obama, when the relationship with Israel was terrible, and all he did was give lectures to our prime minister, and he forced a building freeze on us, where we weren't even allowed to expand a room in a home because that didn't fit Obama's ideology of the way he saw things here. But Trump has been tremendous. He has just been tremendous, from moving the embassy to Jerusalem, getting the United States out of the Iran deal, stopping the payments to the Palestinian Authority until they stop paying the terrorists. So everyone likes Trump here. I think he's doing a great job.
Now, okay, so I noticed that was the last question. On the back of that coin is the image of another temple, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen the actual coin, but I have heard about it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
But in terms of the temple itself, obviously King Cyrus is known for his assistance in rebuilding that second temple.
That's fantastic. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And David Rubin, we really appreciate you coming on the program this morning and spending some time with us. And wish you the best of luck, sir. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Well, thank you very much.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it as well. An honor to meet you. David Rubin, everybody, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, author of the book Trump and the Jews. Check it out. And we're going to take a break, going to reset here, and we'll be back in just a moment. Great communities like Valonia. The Obama administration released their climate change report.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. Great communities like Valonia. The Obama administration released their climate change report the same week that came out. And in that report, it talked about how, because of climate change and because of things like fossil fuels and carbon emissions, that weather is going to get worse. And I just thought to myself, it was essentially saying that if we would have controlled our carbon emissions in the past, then all those communities' homes would have still been standing. And that's preposterous, like to actually think that you can scientifically be able to predict, something of that magnitude. The statistics involved, the math involved is just astronomical. Anyway, I want to introduce you again. Welcome back to the program. We've got Gregory Wrightstone on the line.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
So apparently, I was asking Mr. Rubin there about the coin. There's a ton of different coins now, but like a year ago when this first came out, there was one coin that I saw originally, and I'm going to try to track that down. I was looking at the images, but apparently now there's all kinds of coins comparing Donald Trump to Cyrus with their faces on one side. The original one I saw had their faces on one side, obviously Hebrew. And of course Hebrew's read from right to left, and then you have the temple, meaning like a third. So what you got to understand, in Israel, there is something called the New Sanhedrin movement, from what I know, and they want to build a third temple. I mean, that's what they want to do, and they've got coins out there circulating. Here's Trump compared to King Cyrus and what he did for the Jewish people, and they think that this is going to, from what I can tell, there's people in Israel that think Donald Trump's presidency is going to pave the way to build a third temple. Not to get too much into, eschatology when it comes to the Christian faith, but there's a lot of you, depending on your eschatological persuasion, whose ears may perk up on that. Telephone number 870-275-9799 if you want to call or text. We have State Representative Brant Smith on Facebook writing, great guest, Paul. We have Marlene saying, so true, absolutely a great guest. Well, we will make this last guest that we had, again, the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, available in a YouTube video for you to share. It'll be up at conduitnews.com later today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is honestly, if you want to help us, you want to help Conduit News, the easiest way to help us is to give us more YouTube subscribers. The telephone, and I mean, help us, in every way with our reach, help us monetarily, is to get us more subscribers on YouTube. The telephone number 870-275-9799. A few more of social media comments here. Social media blew up because we had the rally last night with the president. We've played for you some of that, where the crowd erupted into chants of send her back, briefly, talking about Ilhan Omar. And then the president wasn't saying send her back. The media is going to try to tell you that, there's somebody saying that this is part of his evil plan to get reelected, or ugly plan to get reelected. The crowd doesn't like anti-Semitic, pro-communist, pro-Al-Qaeda congresswoman, apparently. I mean, that's all I can tell you. They would rather those types of people not be here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, apparently that's... Now, there's even conservatives who've come out and said, hey, America's better than this. I won't pretend it's easy as a Jewish American to defend Omar. I won't pretend it's not sickening to watch the media and others excuse her bigotry and radicalism, but this is bigger than her. This is about us. America's better than that. That's according to @AG_conservative. Others suggested the chant was a grain of salt with a sense of humor. Again, Greg Gutfeld, pure mob insanity. Apparently, you've never been to a sporting event. Of course, Omar herself responding by saying, you may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. A quote from Maya Angelou. Omar put out a video yesterday where she was talking about how patriotic she is, and she kept talking about patriotism, but she couldn't pronounce the word patriotism. She kept saying patriotism. My patriotism is so powerful. My patriotism is this. She said it like 3 or 4 times in the same little Twitter video. Patriotism, patriotism, patriotism. Yeah. Just FYI. Coming up at 7:33, we're going to be talking with the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, Dr. Jeremy Horpedahl. I'm going to be talking once again about special elections and how deceptive they are. We'll have the data and the facts for you. Again, coming up in about 30 minutes. In other news, yesterday, the House of Representatives took up a vote to impeach President Donald Trump, and it failed. He mentioned this last night at the rally. Trump declares ridiculous impeachment push over as majority of Democrats vote against. In typical Trump fashion, we do have tweets. Quote, the United States House of Representatives just overwhelmingly voted to kill the resolution on impeachment, 332 to 95 to 1. This is perhaps the most ridiculous and time-consuming project I have ever had to work on. Impeachment of your president, who has led the greatest economic boom in the history of our country, the best job numbers, biggest tax reduction, rebuilt military, and much more, is now over. This should never be allowed to happen to another president of the United States again. So the president here, and that's the real story, not these chants of send her back, although it'll be interesting to see if people begin to criminally investigate Ilhan Omar, or there are more reports from the mainstream media about her and her brother and the divorce and everything else. But the president here taking a victory lap because the Democrats voted alongside the Republicans to not impeach the president of the United States. Now remember Maxine Waters? Impeachment, 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 impeachment. Apparently not. Apparently not, Maxine. We'll be back. One more hour coming your way next.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. Inconvenient facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know about. He's also a geologist with more than 35 years of experience researching various aspects of Earth's processes. Gregory, how are you this morning?
Oh, really good. Thanks for having me on again. It's a lot of crazy things out there in the climate change community.
It really is, and I know it's par for the course, right? I mean, I'm looking at this headline right here from theweek.com. How New Orleans flooding risks are exacerbated by climate change. Did you see that one?
I did, and you know what? There's a kernel of truth to it. Well, not climate change, but weather, and it's just opposite of what they're trying to say. It was exacerbated, and New Orleans dodged the bullet. And the reason they dodged the bullet was the Mississippi River was very, very high. And that was due to, recall all that flooding in the Midwest. The flooding in the Midwest was mainly driven by huge snowpacks, huge snowfall, and a very late cold spring that didn't allow the snow to melt. So when the spring rains came, it fell, melting the snow on still frozen ground. Instead of all that water falling like it normally does, a lot of it's sucked up by the ground and incorporated in the groundwater. Well, it didn't have anywhere to go except in the rivers, and they had terrible flooding, and that ended up heading down the Mississippi. So the Mississippi River, when the hurricane hit last week, had it been a little bit further east and they had gotten the brunt of the rain, New Orleans could have had some problems. So yeah, it was exacerbated by the weather conditions, but it wasn't global warming. It was, and remember, it wasn't that many years ago that New York Times had a headline, "Is this the end of snow?" They were predicting a few years ago that the snow resort, ski resorts, and all the others would have to shut down because we weren't going to have any snow. So now, just opposite of that, we had a huge amount of snow throughout the north central United States in the winter and into spring, and then this late cold spring. So it's just opposite of what they're. And one of the things that's really interesting, I testified before the Pennsylvania Senate last month, along with meteorologist Joe Bastardi. I'm sure you're your listeners have seen and heard him. And his take is really good. He says, I'm paid to make accurate predictions. That's what I get paid for. He said, these guys, they never predict what's going
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Yes, welcome. Hour number 2, 870-275-9799. Got a great hour for you coming up. We're going to be talking with Dr. Jeremy Horpedal from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. Coming up at 7:30. Then we got your meme of the day coming up around 7:50-ish towards that last segment. Okay, President Trump implements new rules to defund Planned Parenthood abortion business. This was a piece from lifenews.com. President Trump implements new rules to defund Planned Parenthood abortion business. This is huge news. Huge news. Now, you wouldn't know it. I mean, the media is they're pro-Democrat, anti-Trump, pro-abortion, really. President Trump has announced, again, lifenews.com, that his administration will implement new rules to partially defund the Planned Parenthood abortion business while his administration continues fighting a Planned Parenthood lawsuit designed to stop them. Last week, a federal appeals court ruled Donald Trump can partially defund Planned Parenthood while the abortion business's lawsuit against his administration's new rules move forward. There are many people that think that because of this is why Planned Parenthood fired their director. Did you know that? Many people are saying that Donald Trump essentially got Planned Parenthood's director fired. You fired. Which is pretty hilarious. This was the first physician that, I think Planned Parenthood has had in a while. Matter of fact, Planned Parenthood fired. Let's just you fired. You fired. The Planned Parenthood CEO ousted because group is driven by abortion. Yeah, so the physician who got fired, who was the head of Planned Parenthood, was actually trying to broaden the services of Planned Parenthood. Her name, the former CEO, Dr. Lena Wen, she was trying to get Planned Parenthood to offer more actual women's health care, maybe because she sees the writing on the wall. But Planned Parenthood said, no, we want to keep killing babies and selling their body parts. Yeah. What does it say about us as a country that we have on tape Planned Parenthood executives auctioning off baby body parts, and we're still giving them taxpayer dollars? Certainly it says that the wheels of justice turn very slowly. But it also, I think, highlights the fact that abortion is a genocide. It's a big business, and it's an abomination. That's what it is. It's modern day, legal, human sacrifice. Fox News reports that Planned Parenthood CEO Dr. Lena Wen said she was fired after Planned Parenthood held a secret meeting citing philosophical differences with a board that wants to double down on abortion. But one pro-life leader whose mission is to end abortion and help workers leave the industry told Fox News the abortion provider wasn't a good fit for a doctor in the first place. It's no surprise. This is the worst job in America. They do over 330,000 abortions a year, Sean Carney, president and CEO of 40 Days for Life, told Fox and Friends. He said Wen was hired because she was a doctor. She came in trying to legitimize Planned Parenthood as a healthcare provider, but they are, as she found out, driven by abortion. You will not see a doctor at Planned Parenthood unless you're having an abortion. And so she was wanting to talk more about health care, but this is a terrible time for Planned Parenthood. They've closed many of their locations. They poured $30 million in trying to get Hillary Clinton elected, and now they are the advocates for late-term abortion and infanticide, and we're seeing that spread across the country. There we go. I have a full cup of coffee, not a... Well, look at that. The glass is not only half full, it is full. Spilled it all over myself. I'm telling you, I'm in one of those things. I'm in one of those... I was running slides and sound for my church on this past Sunday, and spilled coffee all over the keyboard. All over it. Last night, we had gnats in the pantry because we let some potatoes just kind of sit there for too long. Thankfully, it's trash day in my neighborhood. And so I'm sitting there trying to pour. There's this trick, by the way. If you take like a vase or a vase and you put apple cider vinegar in it, and then you take like some parchment paper and create a funnel. So the gnats love apple cider vinegar, by the way. They will flock to apple cider vinegar, but then they get down in that funnel. Once they get in your jar, they can't get out, right? So it's a way to just kind of naturally attract and trap a bunch of gnats. I spilled the apple cider vinegar everywhere. Now, I mean, seriously, after I poured it in, all of a sudden I knocked And so I'm having one of those things where, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the other time. I think this is the 5th time I've spilled something in like 3 days or something. Well, it's been longer than that, but I don't know. Whatever. And anybody else out there have those times where you just start to think, man, I just keep thinking, well, it must be because I'm 35 now and I'm just losing coordination every day. Or maybe I'm just in a massive hurry. I think that may be what it is. I just need to slow down. Again, because I'm old, or at least I feel old. I know, you guys out there, 35, you're not old. Well, I don't know. Don't be. Let me be a victim. Somebody's got to be a victim. Let me be a victim of I don't know. Let me be a victim of age. Okay. So, see, Jackie on Facebook. Jackie says sign of old age. So, yeah, we're on maybe a 45-second delay. So she knows. She knows exactly what's going on. Woods says that I need a bib for my coffee. Thanks. Thank you, Woods. I do need a bib. A Conduit News bib. That would be good. That would be really good. Let's get back to this the life news though. Okay, yeah. So, under the new directive, organizations that receive Title X funding now have to financially separate their family planning services from their abortion operations, and they have 1 year to physically separate that. As Life News reported back in March, the Trump administration finalized an administrative rule that would partially defund Planned Parenthood abortion businesses and deprive it of as much as $60 million taxpayer dollars a year. This action adds to President Trump's record of defunding Planned Parenthood and their abortions. The abortion chain received about 50 to 60 million in Title X funds annually, but that could change now that the new rules are being implemented. The administration's changes to Title X family planning grants have angered the abortion chain Planned Parenthood, prompting the lawsuit, but they provide hope for life-affirming pregnancy centers, which will be able to compete with the abortion giant for the federal funds. Now, do you get that? What that means? That means pregnancy resource centers, help centers, those trying to give people ultrasound so they'll choose life, will now be able to compete for Title X funding. Instead of $50-60 million going to Planned Parenthood, I mean, how awesome would it be if some of these local pregnancy help services, you know, that not even give them $1 million. What if you just got $100,000? How much would $100,000 help a local pregnancy resource center somewhere, or $250,000? I mean, if that were to actually happen, folks, I just the amount of it would be such a positive sign in reversing, in the people being able to actually see their government work for them, the consent of the governed, and let's try to reverse this trend, this $60 million person genocide that's been going on since 1974. It's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. It's just evil. That's what it is. The telephone number again, 870-275-9799. We're going to take a break. Going to reset. I'm going to get a bib. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Happen in the future, they just take credit for it after it happens, no matter what it is. And he says if they were any good, they'd be saying, this is what will happen, and this is when it'll happen, and this is why. And they don't do it.
I don't think I've had you on. Maybe I have. I don't think I've had you on since the left got kind of obsessed with this. We've only got 12 years until the damage to the earth is irreversible. You care to comment on that?
Yeah, well, we've heard this time and time again. In 12 years, they'll have another prediction that will be 12 years from now. The UN in 2005 predicted that there would be 50 million climate refugees by 2010. course, that didn't happen. We looked in the book. I capture what the population was of these most at-risk islands that they identified, and the population from 2005 to 2010 had skyrocketed. People were moving to the at-risk islands
Exposing the
instead of
truth
fleeing from
and
them.
everything
And
the
then
Marble
in
Palace
2015,
establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Excuse me. All right, a few things. Everyone wants to talk about the chant last night. Send her back. Send her back. People are going to have different thoughts on this. There are conservatives that are like, well, we don't like people who are, pro-Al-Qaeda and anti-Semitic and, socialists. We don't like that. We don't want any sort of Islamic theocracy, ruling our government. So send her back, yeah. And some conservatives saying, maybe they shouldn't go. Maybe you should just say, hey, we need to fight her radicalism and her anti-Semitism and that sort of thing. Let me know what you think about send her back. I mean, if you look into her, she might get sent back. But if you look into these immigration allegations with her brother and everything else, and more of that's going to start coming out, I got a feeling. Here's more from the rally, though, last night. This is some positive stuff about what the Democrats stand for versus what the Republicans stand for. We have a Twitter video here from Kyle Morris of Breitbart. Quote, the Republican agenda is pro-worker, pro-jobs, pro-family, pro-growth, and 100% pro-America. Listen.
Oh, sir, that was so controversial. Sir. No, I'm just saying it's their choice. They can come back when they want. But, they don't love our country. I think in some cases they hate our country. And they're so angry. Even yesterday, they went on the stage. I said, let me watch this. And the anger, they were trying to be nice, but it's hard. It's hard for them to do that. The choice for every American has never been more clear. That's true. The Democrat agenda is anti-worker, anti-jobs, anti-citizen, anti-family, and anti-common sense. With the exception of all of those Democrats that voted for us today. We'll give them a perspective. They're fine. They are fine, and they, you lose to them, it's different. It's okay. It's called normal political back and forth. But I want to tell you something. The Democrats are being so violent, so vicious, moving so far left. It's out of control. It's out of control. The Republican agenda is pro-worker, pro-jobs, pro-family, pro-growth, and 100% pro-American.
Some people saying, he's got a text message saying, send her back to Congress, or from Congress. Send her back from Congress. Now, that's interesting. Okay, what else do we have? I want to find these Jake Tapper tweets a lot. I want to find these Jake Tapper tweets where he is saying that Democrats are anonymously talking to CNN, and they are saying that House Dems privately voice frustration in defending controversial congresswomen. Let me pull this up real quick. Hang on. House Dems privately voice frustration in defending controversial congresswomen. This is a video, though, right? Or do we actually have the transcript of it? I read the tweets last night. I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it because essentially Jake Tapper, and I know it's Jake Tapper of CNN, but I mean, you never really get when CNN is actually admitting that the Democrats are saying that Trump won. Here we go. Moderate Dems feel squeezed by resolution defending the squad impeachment. What else do we have here? Okay, yeah. Yeah, here it is. All right, I found it. I found it, right. He's got 12 tweets here. I read this last night. If we can unpack this here. Hang on one second, folks. There we go. Okay, tweet number 1. Jake Tapper. Now listen to this. House Democrats appeared unified in their votes this week, but I've spent the day talking to a bunch of them, and many are extremely frustrated. All agree POTUS's tweets needed to be condemned. They spoke under condition of anonymity so they could be candid. The president won this one, said House Dem number 1 of the Trump versus Squad showdown. What the president has done is politically brilliant. Pelosi, it was trying to marginalize these folks, and the president has now identified the entire party with them. Again, Jake Tapper. Another issue, what are Dems focused on? Is it what will help the class of 2018, largely more moderate than the Squad, get reelected? Dem number 2. The president's words and actions speak for themselves. We need to focus on the issues that got them here, jobs, health care, instead of the issues the president brings up deliberately. Anything, listen to this, anything that takes away from bread and butter issues is playing into his hands. What, like you guys being socialists? You don't like to be called socialists? Other House Democrats are conflicted about having to defend the Squad, given things they've said and done. House Dems cited talk of supporting challengers to incumbent Dems in primaries, AOC's use of the term concentration camps, anti-Semitic comments from Tlaib and Omar. This perceived selective outrage rankled some Dems. Everybody was completely outraged by what the president said House Dem number 3, and everybody thought it was appropriate to criticize him. But this was the first time the House has taken action to criticize him in any way. We couldn't even bring ourselves to have a resolution exclusively condemning anti-Semitism uttered by one of those members, Omar, but we leapt to their defense here. A few House Dems noted that Omar and Tlaib just introduced a resolution affirming the right of Americans to boycott, perceived as an expression of support for the anti-Israel BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction movement that most House Democrats oppose. So we'll hear a tirade of attacks on Israel from the same group, said House Dem number 3. Hopefully they won't be anti-Semitic. House Dem number 4 also brought up that bill coming from someone with a history of anti-Semitism, Omar. So yeah, it's challenging. House Dem number 4 recalls that less than 2 weeks ago, when members of our caucus were trying to support funds for children at the border, the Squad was arguing that we're pro putting kids in cages, we're against human rights. So there's frustration among Democrats. Others noted that this week, the House Democrat caucus stood by a group that is not perceived as standing by them. Quote, I can't tell you the number of members who are angry and annoyed about them criticizing us, said House Dem number 3. AOC, in particular, gives her chief of staff license to get candidates to run against her colleagues and to go after them on social media. It makes people's skin crawl, said House Dem number 3. House Dem number 4 summed it up, quote, we were there for them, they should stop attacking us. That's just the latest from anonymous Democrats, according to CNN's Jake Tapper. They talked to him on condition of anonymity, and they're essentially saying that what Trump did, and they said this in the first tweet, what Trump did was politically brilliant. Nancy was trying to marginalize the radicals in her party. Of course, Nancy herself is a radical. She's like microwave communism, and like the other two are just like, they're like goose stepping. Yeah, it's like they're more goose stepping. I think goose stepping morons such as yourselves should try reading books instead of burning them. Name that movie. I'll do it again. I think goose-stepping morons such as yourself should try reading books instead of burning them. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
And made the same prediction, 50 million climate refugees by the year 2020. I think you and I both know that that's going to be wrong, too. But the key here is, Paul, that what they're predicting, what AOC, and I'm not sure about Arkansas, if you've got a climate action plan, many states are doing this. If Arkansas reduced 100%, and your listeners actually could go, I've got this on my website, inconvenientfacts.xy.
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
So, the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, obviously. Yeah, that's Sean Connery, obviously. Everyone, and I appreciate the compliments. Somebody guessed Hunt for Red October. No, that would be Some Things Don't React Too Well to Bullets. That's what that one would be. He doesn't even try to be Russian. Yeah, he is. Yeah. All right, hey folks, welcome back to the program. I want to introduce. It's always great to have Dr. Jeremy Horpedahl on the program. Jeremy, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, Paul. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Now, I want to remind everybody, Jeremy is with the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics. I wanted to have you on because I know we've talked about this before, but your study on special elections is so good. We talked about it before, but we still have in Arkansas a string of special elections. There's, been one in Fort Smith. There's been some in Central Arkansas. There's one coming up right after school starts in Jonesboro to try to raise taxes. And your research. Well, let me just start there. What made you want to do this research?
So I got interested in this actually as I was working on another project. We wrote a big book on taxes in Arkansas, about 100 pages long. And as we were doing the research for that book, I came across all this great data on special elections. I was actually able to get data on almost every election going back to the early 1980s. And as an economist, I get really excited when I see this big set of data. And I thought, what can I do with this? And looking at special elections and when do they pass and when do they fail. That's something that you see in the news, like you said. There's one somewhere almost every month. So I just started looking at that data, and I think we got some pretty interesting results here. One of the main results, I think, as we've talked about before, is that most of these, and we look at sales tax elections, which are the vast majority of these special elections. Almost all of them, 80%, take place during sometime other than a general or primary election. So 83% are during either it's a standalone election or it's at some time other than a general or primary election. And what we also found is that voter turnout is much, much lower during these special elections. We found that on average, voter turnout is only 19% for these special elections, whereas it's over 40% for general elections. And then finally, the other thing, which I think is the main result, is that these sales tax increases, are much more likely to pass during a special election. 3/4 of them pass if they're during a special election, and fewer than half pass if it's during a general election.
And that's to me is sad, because if it were an emergency, let's say a tornado comes through town, okay, go for it. But there are people who are you're an economist, so there are people who are at work. They're trying to put food on their family. They're trying they're trying to put food on the table for their family, and they're doing these things, and they pretty much know, what, you vote once every 2 years. You really have the big vote once every 4 years, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the time, a lot of people don't even listen to the news except once every 4 years to figure out who they want to vote for president. And that's the way a lot of people work. And they're not looking into their local tax rate. But if they actually got a vote, if they were there during the general election, most of your hard-working Arkansans don't want to pay more taxes. They want the taxes to stay where they are.
Yeah, and I think one other type of election, which are school board elections, those used to kind of be at just any time the school district wanted to set it before. A few years ago, the legislature said, we're still going to have it be a standalone election, but we're at least going to put it on a regular date so people can expect it. So school board elections now they're special in the sense that they're a standalone election, but they have it on a regular date. There have been bills in the legislature the past 2 sessions to do the same thing for these tax elections, these tax votes, but it hasn't gotten through. So there are people trying to get this changed. And actually, the title of the bill says, the goal of this is to increase voter turnout. That's explicitly what they're trying to do. Make sure everyone is having a chance to be aware of the election and have a say. But as of yet, none of those have passed. So the cities and counties can still hold these with a lot of discretion as to when the election is.
We're talking with Dr. Jeremy Horpedahl from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. He's also an associate professor at the University of Central Arkansas. So I can't help but bring in, and I know, we're not necessarily talking, well, maybe feel free, to talk about the ethical problem with this, because that's really what I think this is. Political views aside, if you've got a politician who's on the far right that wants lower taxes or maybe wants to pass a tax cut during the special election, or you've got, most of the time, these politicians want to pass tax increases. And this study is very well done, again, from 1981 to 2018. Regardless of where you stand, the concept of good government, we want, these democratic elections to mean something. And so you would think, regardless of what you believe personally as an elected official, that you want the largest sample of the people you govern to come to the ballot box. And the reality is, according to this study, in a special election, you get an average of 19% voter turnout versus 44%, according to your numbers, if you were to hold it during a general election. And so I mean, I have called it deception, Jeremy, because I think that's really kind of what it is. I don't think it's ethical to do this when, we're talking about the people's money.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that with the data we tried to get some information about, why are these being held at different times? But I couldn't really find anything on that. So as an economist, I can't really comment on, why they're doing this. I can just talk about what's the result. I think one important thing to remember here with sales taxes is that the Tax Foundation in Washington, D.C. just released a report this month. They do an update every 6 months on what states have the highest sales tax rates when you take the state rate and add in all the local rates. And Arkansas now, for the first time, has the highest sales tax rate in the country. We're tied with Tennessee at about 9.5%. So we have the highest sales tax rate in the country when you take account of local rates. And so, part of my motivation for looking at this is to say, why is that?
Yeah.
Why do we have such a high sales tax rate? And when you look at Tennessee, they don't have an income tax. So among states which have an income tax, we have by far the highest sales tax. And I think that this is, we're not the only state that allows this, but Arkansas has very loose restrictions about when these can be held, when these elections can be held, what they can be about. So I think this is at least part of the reason that we have such high sales tax rates here is because there's just a lot of discretion for local governments to hold these elections. And I should also say that, I've been called to testify about some of these bills that have been proposed. And groups like the Arkansas Municipal League, they're actually okay with this change as long as there are provisions in it to allow, if there's a tornado and they need to raise taxes to help pay for that, for emergencies. And the bills have included that. The Municipal League, which is the main kind of lobbying group for city governments, they're actually okay with these changes, but still it hasn't gone through.
Well, I hope we can get another shot at it. I like how you have the percentages, but you also have the total number of special elections from 1981 to 2018, 798 elections, which, special or others. Now, talk about the cost of that, right? Because there's also an added cost of taxpayer money to put on a special election.
Right. So this is something where we didn't have data on all, 1,000 elections, but we had a number that we could find data on. And so we said, what's kind of the average cost, depending on the population size, multiplied by how many of these there's have been. And we estimate that the total cost has been about $10 million over that, it's over, a 30-year time period. So in some sense, maybe $10 million isn't very much, but this is an additional cost that cities and counties are incurring. If you hold it during the general election, there's no cost to doing it, right? So for a city, maybe for a smaller city, maybe it costs $20,000 to do this. That's $20,000 that's in some sense completely unnecessary. It's just one more line on the general election ballot or the primary election, but they're going out of their way to have a completely separate election, which is a cost whether the thing passes or not. So we did find that it varies depending on the size of the electorate, but we found close to $10 million of additional costs that cities and counties have incurred since the 1980s.
So back to your previous point about Arkansas now having the highest sales tax in the nation, or tied with Tennessee. The distinction there would be that Tennessee has no income tax, right?
Right. They have no income tax, and their property taxes they're a little higher than us, but they're pretty comparable. So on property tax, about the same. On sales tax, we're the same, but they have no income tax. So that's a
loaded question.
That's a big difference.
Loaded question. I mean, how do they do it? How do they survive on that? I mean, is it population? They got more population than us. I mean, what gives? Why can't we lower our sales tax rate?
Well, part of it is just spending is different. So they spend. It's not dramatically less, but they spend a little bit less than us per capita. They have more people, right? So for certain things, they can kind of spread the cost over more people. So that's in some sense an advantage. But as you know, I've got some other research that kind of looks at this spending and compares Arkansas to other states. And we're working on an update to that as well to kind of look in more detail about, as you've reported, and I know you like this paper we've written about how Arkansas state government spends a lot more than neighboring states. we're kind of trying to drill down and see why is that. What areas do we spend more on? What has increased? And so we're trying to figure that out. So, a large part of what drives the need for higher taxes is higher spending. But also, when you increase taxes, they do always find something to spend that money on. So, in some sense, it goes both ways. But the spending is the it's clearly the other side of it.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad. I appreciate that. I think that's certainly something that we've heard, even from a lot of lawmakers, in this last session, people, saying, listen, there really wasn't much talk about, getting the spending under control or cutting spending so we don't have to raise taxes over here. And now, of course, the people are facing a net tax increase for the next couple of fiscal years or several fiscal years. Dr. Jeremy Horpedahl, I always love having you on. I love your research. Please let me know, or I'll certainly be watching the ACRE website for the updated paper on spending and what separates Arkansas from our neighbors. And really appreciate the work you do, sir.
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope you have a good day.
Yes, sir. Have a great day. Folks, we're going to make a separate YouTube video of this. It'll be up at conduitnews.com. Again, I want to go over these numbers one more time. Throw this up. Can you throw this up real quick? I want to end here. Arkansas local sales tax elections. Look at that graphic right there. 44% voter turnout in general elections. When you have a 44% voter turnout, you wind out with the tax increase passing 46% of the time. In a primary, you have 24% voter turnout, and the tax increase passes 61% of the time. In a special election, you have a 19% voter turnout, again, from 1981 to 2018, and a 76% passage rate for the tax increase. This is why communities like Fort Smith and Jonesboro try to do special elections, because they know that if they do a special election, there's less voter turnout, and there's a higher probability that the tax increase will be passed. I think that is wrong. What do you think? We'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
It's called the Magic Simulator, MAGICC. It's developed by the EPA, but I've listed and calculated, and I show here for every state, if they Arkansas reduced 100% of its CO2 emissions. Are you sitting down? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Because you might fall off your, I don't want you. So Arkansas, it would avert 1/1000th of a degree Fahrenheit by 2050, and 2/1000ths of a degree Fahrenheit by 2100. How many jobs lost is that worth? Is this measured in thousandths of a degree? It's well below anything we can even measure, and that's what they're talking about. These people with this Green New Deal, the Paris Climate Accord. What's their goal? What's their main goal? Their main goal is to alter the temperature of the Earth. Is it not? Isn't that their front?
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Eight 870-275-9799. Telephone number if you would like to contribute to the program. Let's go back. Top of the show, Real Clear Politics video. Here's President Donald Trump talking about Ilhan Omar. You'll hear this all day. Might as well hear it some more. The media is freaking out because the crowd chanted, "Send her back." Listen to this. What an interesting
Omar laughed that Americans speak of Al-Qaeda in a menacing tone and remarked that you don't say America with this intensity. You say Al-Qaeda makes you proud. Al-Qaeda makes you proud. Don't speak that way about America. And at a press conference just this week, when asked whether she supported Al-Qaeda, that's our enemy. That's our enemy. They are a very serious problem that we take care of, but they always seem to come along somewhere. She refused to answer. She didn't want to give an answer to that question. Omar blamed the United States for the crisis in Venezuela. I mean, think of that one. And she looks down with contempt on the hard-working Americans, saying that ignorance is pervasive in many parts of this country. And obviously and importantly, Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds. And she talked about the evil Israel, and it's all about the Benjamins. Not a good thing to say. So that's Omar. That's Omar.
Stop. Now, what did he say? Al-Qaeda, anti-Semitic remarks. Yeah, and the chant started. You're going to hear people start to analyze this. The send her back chant started right before he brought up the anti-Semitic comments. But I think we can pretty much say that, but you're not going to hear anybody say, well, it looks like the people at that Trump rally don't like anti-Semitism. They actually like the Jewish people. You're not going to hear anyone say that, but you will hear people say that Trump mischaracterized her Al-Qaeda comments and all this other nonsense. And that they're, well, you're already hearing, Trump's plan to get reelected is, what is it? Ugly. An ugly plan. Xenophobia, bigotry. Has nothing to do with the color of her skin. It has everything to do with her ideology and what she has said. That's what this is about. And the people are watching the news. They have seen what's happened on Twitter since Sunday to now, and they're sick of it. They're also sick of the media. They're tired of it. And, do I wish the crowd would have chanted send her back? No, not really. Maybe send her back home, vote her out of office, something like that. Just because, she is an American citizen. But at the same time, the president's, what he is bringing to the forefront is this idea that there is a segment of the Democrat Party that believe that America is fundamentally flawed. And they're trying to bring ideals over here or promote ideals in America that are not really compatible with Western civilization. And they do talk about how America, the fact that she is born in Somalia, is an American citizen, maybe fraudulently, by the way, and is now a United States Congresswoman, tells you that this country is not the bigoted place she claims it to be. Right? She's a success. She's in Congress. But you're not going to hear any of that. And you will not hear them actually bring up her anti-Semitic remarks. That has started all of this. Here's your meme of the day. Speaking of the far left and socialism, this is courtesy of Trumped.America. We have a pile of garbage, black garbage bags. How come the garbage bags are black? We have these black garbage bags. Mark, socialism. No, I'm just being a leftist. Socialism. But there's a golden garbage bag on top of the black garbage bags that's marked Democratic Socialism. Still garbage, but just golden garbage. We'll post this up at conduitnews.com. On the Twitter page, at Conduit News. We'll also post it, facebook.com/Conduit News. More on Ilhan Omar. You got to check out David Steinberg's pieces on this up at PJ Media. Here's the headlines for the last year. Ilhan Omar endorsed Somalia's new president. 4 days later, Omar's brother-in-law had a powerful job in his administration. 105 articles cover Ilhan Omar's win. 0 cover her anti-Semitism, finance investigations, or perjury evidence. New photos corroborate perjury claims against Representative Ilhan Omar as she deletes her social media evidence. Address records show Representative Ilhan Omar still lived with her first husband throughout marriage to her apparent brother. Official school records support claims that Representative Ilhan Omar married her brother. Representative Ilhan Omar perjury evidence blacked out by the Minnesota media and the Democrat Party. And then Representative Ilhan Omar swore to apparent falsehoods in court while divorcing her alleged brother. That was the first article, I think, back in August of 2018. So about a year. So these headlines, again, David Steinberg, I would check him out on Twitter because he says there's a new smoking gun coming out. He said this last night on Twitter. Big Ilhan Omar update. Today, Donald Trump mentioned Omar's past. Scott Johnson, Preya Samsundar, and myself have investigated this alone for 3 years. Presumably, mainstream media must finally cover this. So I'll be publishing new smoking gun evidence this week. He said this last night, last evening, around 5:30. So you want to follow this guy if you want to know more on on Ilhan Omar. Matter of fact, I need to follow, so I'm going to go ahead and click follow. We will see you tomorrow for Johnny Cash Friday for our terrestrial radio audience. And Arkansas, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Be safe.